Welcome! In this training we are going to talk about how Git works internally, under the hood. That might sound like a weird choice. Why is that important? Well, of course there is some geeky pleasure in understanding how things work, but that's not the most important reason to know this stuff. Give me 1 minute to tell you why we're talking about the internals of Git. When you think about Git, you probably think about the high-level user commands, the so-called porcelain commands. You're probably familiar with the basic ones, like add and commit. And if you worked with a remote repository, then you probably also used the push and pull. And if you worked with branches, you used the branch, switch probably, merge, maybe even rebase. The list goes on. If you have a lot of Git experience, then maybe you got even deeper than these into the low-level commands, the so-called plumbing commands. For example, cat file, hash object, and a few more. These are the basic building bricks that the porcelain commands are built upon. Maybe you never even heard of these commands, and that's okay. You might never need to use the plumbing commands unless you're doing some advanced Git scripting or the like. Now, understanding all these commands can be hard. Some of them can be confusing. However, here is a key point. You could argue that the secret to Git is not about knowing the commands, either porcelain or plumbing. Instead, the secret to Git is about knowing the conceptual model behind Git. If you want to use Git safely and unleash all of its power and not get in trouble, then don't look at the commands. Look at the model instead. Once you do, the complexity of the Git commands kind of fades away. Suddenly Git looks simple, even elegant, I promise. You don't get stuck anymore. So if you really want to become a Git master, then you should understand the model. And then you will also understand the commands much more deeply after you understand the model. And this is what I want to talk about in this training, the model. So let's get started, but first let's take a minute to check whether this stuff works on the version of Git you're using.